Everyone involved in football, whether they're a part of a club or just a fan, has a few pet peeves about the sport. Some may dislike VAR and how it slows the game down, and others may get annoyed about football Twitter and these specimens found there, although, it's always great to see them get owned a bit. But then there are those who are actually annoyed by one of the best things about the entire sport, which is the celebrations. On February 12th, Everton scored a dramatic, late equalizer against their most hated rival Liverpool, while playing their last season at Goodison Park, as Everton are moving to a new stadium after this current campaign. Every Evertonian in the stadium was completely overcome with joy, and in almost any situation like this, the players and the fans of the club who scored would be celebrating. But in this case, with all the factors I mentioned before, plus the fact that Everton fans have been through the depths of hell the past decade, the celebrations and joy were even more amplified, and who can blame them? Well, it turns out a few thousand people would blame them. There's been a trend recently that's been all about removing any type of fun or emotion in football. In fact, it's actually gone to other sports as well, like Jason Tatum getting a technical foul, the equivalent of a yellow card, after being mad at himself for committing a foul. Anytime I mess up in my own life, I turn into a white dad and go, ah, god damn it. Like I'd be ejected from every single game, apparently. Now, football has been doing something similar, as some fans, analysts, and even members of the FA expect no emotion and no celebrations unless it's for one of the biggest achievements, which would be winning a trophy. But guess what? Celebrations don't have to include winning a trophy. Now, I know that's what every person on football Twitter says and what the major analysts like these bozos think, but they are wrong. The thing is that 99% of teams in the entire sport across the globe will not win a trophy during the season. Are you seriously going to tell Everton, a club that at the moment is the embodiment of a toothpaste container that should have been thrown out days ago, to not celebrate as they scored an equalizer in the dying moments of the game against their biggest rival, which potentially put a dent in said rival's title chances in their last derby match in their current stadium that's been around since the 1800s? I'd ask if you were dumb or stupid, but given your Twitter page is full of sports betting, bad memes, and an ungodly amount of this laughing emoji, I think you're both dumb and stupid. Not sure how that's possible, but you've done it. And then there's these guys, some of the supposed unbiased analysts. Now listen, you guys came from clubs that are historically some of the biggest in the world, and you two specifically have won a lot yourselves. Yes, it's important to make sure that you don't get carried away and think that a late win means you're guaranteed anything, but are you saying that players can't take literally a couple hours immediately afterwards to have fun with friends, family, staff members that have been there the whole time? For example, last season, when Odegaard took this picture, he was ridiculed for it, especially by Jamie Carragher. The thing is, he was taking a picture of the Arsenal photographer, one that's been around for years and loves the club. It also only took about 30 seconds. Should Odegaard just have said, nah, sorry, fuck off, dude? Have a sense of enjoyment. Let these young adults, sometimes children, enjoy the moment. Oh, it looks like you actually can let them enjoy it, if it's just for your team. Okay, cool. Now, these calls for muted post-match celebrations have been going on for a while now, but not just in the Premier League. In the Serie A, for example, when Roma beat Lazio 2-0 in their derby match, rip Bozo Lazio, rest in piss, the Lazio owner was not a huge fan of the celebrations afterwards, saying you would have thought that they won the Scudetto. When Barcelona thrashed Bayern in the Champions League 4-1, which was their first victory over the German club in the previous 6 matches, Barcelona fans and players alike were obviously excited, which they should have been, regardless of their history, because it was a major result in a tough competition against an even tougher opponent. But of course, Real Madrid fans called the whole thing embarrassing, with one asking if they had just won the Champions League, because obviously you can't celebrate unless you win a trophy, right? Obviously, like obviously, right? Your fans and players would never do that stuff, right? Like obviously they wouldn't, because that's, it's obviously embarrassing, right? Obviously. Now, as tasteless as it is for people to complain about someone scoring a last-second goal and celebrating with their fans, you can always expect the team who lost, a rival fan base, or a biased analyst to say say something. That's just how it is. I mean, I would probably do the same thing. What you shouldn't expect are unbiased parties like referees or organizations to also criticize and punish celebrations. Now, there are certain times that are worthy of punishment, like taking off a shirt resulting in a yellow card, or someone removing their shorts and getting sent off, which I think we can all agree is a very fair punishment and if anything deserves something harsher. However, we've recently seen criticism and cards given out for some celebrations after a goal, and that's detrimental to the sport because not only are they just not worthy of punishments whatsoever and actually add to rivalries and storylines, but it's contradictory of what's been allowed in the past. Now, obviously, rules can change over time, but most rules or enforcements cannot be changed during the middle of a season. Take the celebration by Miles Lewis Skelly, for example. If you're unaware of the context of this celebration, this is actually Erling Haaland's signature celebration, and there's been beef between him and Arsenal the past few months. After City's late equalizer last season, he tossed the ball at Gabriel's head immediately after scoring a goal, and then told Arteta to be humble after the match. Haaland also had a run-in with Lewis Skelly specifically, mocking him by saying that he did not know who he was. So when Lewis Skelly scored, he decided to mimic Haaland's iconic celebration. Now, given the context, this is actually a pretty good response, especially from a teenager, but I do think that the majority of players would try to do something like this, and I say that because a lot of players have actually done it in the past. Saka has done it with Rashford, the whole PSG squad did it to Haaland, and Maupay did it to Maddison with no official retribution from the FA whatsoever. Which is especially surprising for Maupay, given he has the ego of Zlatan and the ability of a beached whale. You know, he looks like the type of guy to snitch on his friends for a Starbucks gift card. Like, if he was an animated character, he'd be this dude with his Randall Weems looking ass. The point is that Lewis Skelly has done something that many before him have done before, yet the Premier League is going to look to change its rules, which would be extremely soft. But the thing is, we've actually already seen these mid-season changes happen, because when Ndiaye scored a penalty against Brighton, he did a flying bird celebration and got booked for it. This was worthy of a booking. Are you kidding me? Not only is that Charmin ultra soft, but Vardy did literally the exact same thing against Crystal Palace and did not receive a yellow card. Booking someone for an extremely mild celebration that would annoy anyone who's too soft to handle it is actually annoying me. Like, the game has gone soft a bit. But what really gets me is the inconsistent and hypocritical nature of the FA and the higher ups. We just talked about it with the FA considering changing the rules after Lewis Skelly's celebration, but the most ridiculous example was what happened after Reece Nelson's goal against Bournemouth. During the 22-23 campaign, Nelson hit a last-gasp desperation shot to win the game with the literal last kick of the match in order to extend Arsenal's lead at the top of the table. It was an insane moment that led to some of the best limbs in the Emirates era and gave every Arsenal fan hope, which is obviously our fault. We should have known better. Regardless of how you feel about Arsenal, this is something that all sports fans love to experience, is that comeback feeling that gets capped off with a dramatic late win, especially if it's for a title. I mean, that's why the Premier League was promoting this highlight. They understand that this is why we are so invested. Although it might be worth mentioning that Arsenal were actually being investigated for those celebrations at the same time. You know, it might be worth mentioning. Again, the hypocrisy is just too much to bear. You are actively promoting something while investigating it for wrongdoing. Now, thankfully, Arsenal did not get charged. And I know some of you will say, oh, well, so it doesn't matter that they got charged at all. Who cares? My guy, it doesn't matter that Arsenal were not charged. That's not the point whatsoever. The point is that they were being investigated for just celebrating in the first place. It wasn't as if the match had to be paused for an extended period of time. It wasn't as if players just left the match and didn't finish it. It wasn't as if Arsenal players were provoking the Bournemouth bench. It was just an emotional celebration enjoyed by the club. Now, I don't believe that this is the majority of fans. I do think that unless you are actively rooting for the team that lost, you can appreciate or at the very least enjoy some of the types of finishes that we're seeing. I'm just kind of venting because it's so genuinely absurd to me. Even if you're a fan of Real Madrid, who wins 15 billion trophies a season, you have to understand that these moments are far and few in between for the vast majority of football fans. Winning trophies and winning in general is fun and important, that's why we keep score in the first place, but you have to enjoy the journey as much as that destination. That Nelson goal was one of the best moments I've had as an Arsenal fan. Now, I won't sit here and lie telling you that it made up for coming in second place. It didn't. It doesn't make that up at all. I'm still haunted by that season. But at the same time, that moment still matters, and all of the emotions I felt in that moment still matter. So for the love of God, stop complaining about fans enjoying a big win, stop complaining about players being a bit shithousery, and stop policing celebrations. Otherwise, you'll turn into the villain from this Nike commercial. Like this is you guys. You're literally the bad guy. You hate football.